In the heart of Anioma village, where yam barns spoke louder than words and farmland measured a man's greatness, one farmer rose above them all, Ezenaya, loved by his people, blessed with wisdom, and honored for his hard work. He seemed untouchable. But beneath the smiles of his home, a dangerous seed of jealousy was waiting to grow. What happens when love turns into rivalry, and when a wife's desperate hunger for power drives her into a dangerous plot against an innocent child? Stay with me till the end of this story because the twist that Anoma village witnessed is one you will never forget. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe, like, and turn on your notification bell so you won't miss more powerful folktales like this. Now, let's step into Anoma village, where love, betrayal, and faith met in one man's household. The cock crowed 3 times, announcing the dawn in Anioma village. The roofs of the mud huts glistened with dew as women step out with clay pots balanced on their heads, heading to the stream. From the blacksmith hut came the sound of iron striking iron. Ba, 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 the sound that woke the hunters preparing their traps. But no matter how early the village stirred, one man was always ahead of them, Ezenaya, tall and broad-shouldered, with arms hardened by the years of famine. Ezenaya carried his hoe like a warrior carried a spear. The soil seemed to bow to him. Yam tubers from his farm were bigger than any others. His cassava was sweeter, and his barns stood taller than his father's before him. The people of Anioma often said, if hard work had a face, it would look like Ezenaya. He had learned farming from his father, Nnayelugo, a man respected for his wisdom, and his mother, Weke, who was as industrious as she was kind. From the age of 12, Ezenaya followed his father into the fields. Papa, little Ezenaya asked one morning as he tried to drag a hoe that was almost bigger than him. Why do we rise before the sun when others are still sleeping? Nnayelugo chuckled, resting his own hoe on his shoulder. My son, the land is like a woman. If you greet her early with respect, she will reward you with plenty. But if you come to her late, she will turn her back on you. Weke, who had followed them to the farm with a basket of food, added with a smile, and remember, aka aja aja na-ebute ọnụ mmanụ mmanụ. Dirty hands bring an oily mouth. Without sweat, there can be no yam pounding in the pot. The boy listened. From that day, he never complained about farm work again. By the time he grew into his 20s, Ezenaya's name was on every villager's lips. Women praised him in the market square when they saw the size of his yams. Young men envied his strength. Elders nodded in approval whenever he walked past. Eh? One old man exclaimed during a village meeting. This Ezenaya, his father's blood is strong in him. Anioma will not suffer hunger as long as his barn stands. Ezenaya smiled humbly. He was not only a great farmer but also a man of wisdom, always speaking with respect, never raising his voice against his elders. But while his barns were full, his heart longed for one thing, love. It was during the annual Iriji New Yam Festival that Ezenaya first saw Adaku, a maiden from Umunede, a neighboring village. She danced in the village square, her wet beads jiggling softly, her wrapper tied tightly around her slender waist. Her laughter was like the sound of a fresh stream. Men stood still to watch her, and even women could not deny her beauty. Ezenaya's eye followed her every move. That night, he confessed to his friend Okechukwu, my spirit has seen my wife today. That maiden, Adaku, she will be mine. Okechukwu shook his head, sipping from a calabash of palm wine. Ezenaya, be careful. Beauty is like ripe palm fruits, sweet outside but may have worms inside. Do not let your eyes deceive your heart. But Ezenaya's heart was already captured. When he told his parents of his choice, Nnayelugo frowned deeply. My son, he began, stroking his grey beard, we have heard whispers about this girl, Adaku. They say she is proud, her tongue sharp like a blade. A wife must be a calabash of peace, not a pot of fire. Wege joined in gently. Ezenaya, we only want your happiness. A bad wife can scatter even the richest man's household. Choose carefully, my child. But Ezenaya was firm. Father, mother, I've made my choice. Love cannot be measured by whispers. Adaku will be my wife. His parents exchanged worried glances, but their son's heart was stubborn. The wedding day came with pomp. Drums thundered, flutes sang, and dancers filled the square. Adako walked proudly into Ezenaya's compound, her beauty dazzling like the morning sun. Villagers whispered among themselves, Ezenaya's heart has chosen beauty over wisdom. Time will tell whether this marriage will bring him joy or tears. At first, the marriage was sweet. Adako's laughter filled the compound, and Ezenaya loved her deeply. But as the years rolled by, sorrow crept in. No child's cry was heard in their home. Ezenaya's mother sighed often. A home without children, she lamented, is like a farm without rain. What use is a barn without seed for tomorrow? The whispers in the village grew louder. Some mocked Adako, calling her barren. Others pitied Ezenaya, saying his wealth had no heir. One evening, Nnaelugo spoke to his son. My son, a tree does not stand on one root. You must take another wife, one who will bear you children. Your name must not vanish like smoke. Ezenaya resisted at first, but out of respect for his parents, he agreed. They chose Ezinne, a chubby, humble maiden whose beauty was not in her face, but in her gentle heart. Adako is fire, Weke said quietly, but Ezinne is water. One day, you will know which one truly quenches thirst. Not long after, Ezinne gave birth to a son, Ezenaya Jr. The village rejoiced. Women danced, and men clapped Ezenaya on the back. His barns were full. His house no longer silent, but fate had another twist. Months later, Adako also conceived and bore a son, Ugonna. 2 sons, 2 mothers, 2 futures, and beneath the laughter of the compound, the silent rivalry had begun. For a while, Ezenaya's household appeared peaceful. The sound of children playing filled the compound. Junior and Ugonna chased chickens around, laughing so loudly that even passing neighbors paused to smile. Their little sisters played beside them, molding sand into pretend cooking mugs. At dusk, Ezenaya would return from the farm with baskets heavy with yam, cassava and maize. Adako and Ezinne cooked together, their pots steaming with soup, while Ezenaya sat in the obi, the family hut, with friends drinking palm wine. To outsiders, it seemed like a home blessed by the gods, but inside Adako's heart, a storm was gathering. One night, as the moon cast its pale glow on the compound, Adako sat alone outside, grinding her teeth in thought. Ugonna slept peacefully on a raffia mat beside her, his chest rising and falling like a calm drum beat. She stared at him, her face tightening. She muttered under her breath, why should my son, Ugonna, bow to another woman's child? Is he not flesh of Ezenaya's flesh too? Must Junior inherit everything while my son lives in his shadow? She remembered the words of her co-wives in the village square, women gossiping after fetching water. Ezinne has given Ezenaya the true heir, one woman had whispered. Adako's son is only second. A second wife has triumphed over her. The words stung like pepper in Adako's ears. No, she hissed. Ugonna must rise. Junior must fall. The following morning, Adako called Junior while Ezinne was busy pounding fufu. Junior, come here, my dear, she said sweetly, forcing a smile. The boy ran to her, his innocent eyes shining. Yes, Mama Adako, your father is in the farm and must be thirsty. Carry this calabash farm wine to him quickly. She pressed the gourd into his hands. Unknown to the boy, the drink was laced with bitter herbs she had ground secretly at night. It would not kill him instantly, but it would weaken his body until his lights slowly dimmed. Junior nodded eagerly. Yes, Mama Adako. He ran off, barefoot on the dusty path, but fate had other plans. Halfway to the farm, his foot caught a stone, and the calabash slipped from his hands. It shattered on the ground, spilling the thick liquid into the dust. Villagers nearby rushed over. One bent down and sniffed the spilled drink. His eyes narrowed. This is not ordinary palm wine, he said. It smells of bitter herbs. When word reached Ezenaya, he frowned in confusion. That evening, he asked Adako directly, why did you give my son palm wine mixed with herbs? Adako laughed nervously, waving her hand. Ah, my husband, you worry too much. They were just herbs for strength. I only wanted to help you work harder in the farm. Ezinne, who had listened silently, lowered her eyes, but her heart pounded with suspicion. She watched Adako more carefully after that day. Weeks passed, but Adaku's envy grew thicker. She noticed how Ezenaya's face lit up whenever Junior did something clever. She noticed how the elders in the village called Junior the true heir. One evening, while pounding yam, Ezinne called out, "Junior, bring your father water to wash his hands." Adaku bit her lip. Why was it always Junior? Why did Ezenaya's parents always bless him with proverbs while Ugonna received only smile? That night, as she lay beside Ezenaya, she whispered to herself in darkness, "The throne of this house belongs to Ugonna. If destiny refuses to give it, then I must take it." The following week, Adaku rose early and told the others she was going to the stream, but instead she walked along the narrow bush path that led to the neighboring village. She walked until the palm trees grew fewer and the land felt heavier, darker. She arrived at a small mud house, smeared with red chalk. Strange symbols were carved into the wood. At the doorway sat a cooked man with cowrie shells around his neck and white chalk smeared across his forehead. His eyes glowed faintly in the dim firelight. He was a fair Dibe, native doctor. "Gedo, why?" he croaked. "Why have you come?" Adaku bowed slightly, her hands trembling as she placed her offerings, a cock, some kola nuts, a small calabash of palm oil, and a few cowries. "Great Dibia," she said softly, "I want my son to rise, but another woman's son blocks his path. Show me the way to remove him." The Dibia's laugh was low and chilling. He cast his cowries on the ground and studied the pattern. His voice came like a hiss. "Your son will rise, but first the other must fall. Do you have the heart to see it through?" Adaku swallowed hard but nodded. "Yes." The Dibia tied charms, muttered incantation, and handed her a small leather pouch filled with black powder. "Scatter this where the boy plays," he said. "The earth itself will rise against him." Adaku clutched the pouch tightly. Her heart raced with a dangerous excitement. As she walked back to Anioma, the evening sun painted the sky red and a vulture circled above her head. She did not know that every step she took drew her closer to a destiny she could not escape. Ezinne was not a woman of many words, but her heart was like a drum that never stopped beating for her son, Junior. Since the day the calabash of palm wine shattered on the road, she had noticed the cold shadow in Adaku's eyes. At night, while Ezenaya snored in deep sleep, Ezinne would lie awake, whispering prayers. "Chim, God of Anioma, protect my son. Keep evil far from him. Let no hand of jealousy pluck his life before it blossoms." She became watchful. If Junior fetched water, she followed. If he went to the market square with other children, her eyes stayed on him like a hawk guarding his cheek. But Adaku's restlessness was like fire under dry grass. It kept spreading. One hot afternoon, the children of the household begged to go and play. Ugonna tugged at his mother's wrapper. "Mama, let us go to the river bank. We want to throw stones and chase crabs." Adaku's lips curved into a smile, but inside her chest, her heart beat like a festival drum. "The river. What better place for accidents?" "Yes, my son," she said sweetly. "Call Junior and the girls. I will take you." Ezinne, who was cooking soup in the kitchen hut, overheard them. She called out gently, "Adaku, be careful. The children must not go too close to the river." Adaku laughed loudly, her voice carrying a false cheer. "Ezinne, do not fear. I will watch them with eagle eyes. Nothing will happen." But her heart whispered, "Today is the day." The children ran ahead, laughing and singing as their bare feet kicked up dust on the narrow path. When they reached the river bank, they scattered, skipping stones across the water and chasing after dragonflies. Junior, always the boldest, found a flat rock and began to show the others how to throw stones far into the river. "See how it bounces like a fish," he shouted proudly. Ugonna clapped in excitement. His eyes shone with admiration for his half-brother. "Teach me too, Junior. I want to throw like you." Adaku watched from behind a tree, her eyes narrowing. She had brought the pouch of black powder the Divya had given her. The plan was simple. Distract Junior, sprinkle the powder on the ground near where he played, and let the gods of the river do the rest. But before she could move, Ugonna ran close to the edge. His foot slipped on the wet mud, and with a sharp cry, he slid dangerously towards the swirling current. "Ugonna!" Adaku screamed, her heart freezing in her chest. Without thinking, Junior dropped the stone in his hand and leaped forward. His small arms wrapped tightly around Ugonna's waist. With all his strength, he pulled his younger brother back from the edge just as the current surged, dragging at his legs. Both boys fell back onto the sand, panting, mud splashing on their face. Ugonna burst into tears, clinging to Junior. Brother, you saved me. Junior brushed the mud off his arm and smiled, his chest rising and falling. Do not fear, Ugonna. I will always protect you. The other children began shouting and clapping. Junior saved Ugonna. Junior is brave. Their voices carried across the water and up the path. Villagers fetching water hurried to the scene. Within moments, the story spread like dry grass catching fire. By the time they returned to the compound, people had already gathered, murmuring with excitement. Ezen Naya, who had just come back from the farm, looked at his son proudly. My boy, he said, lifting Junior onto his shoulder, you are truly a lion's cub. To risk your life for your brother, that is the mark of a true heir. Ezinne wept tears of joy, hugging her son tightly. The gods protect this child, she whispered. The elders who had heard of the incident nodded their heads. Indeed, one of them said, the first son carries the spirit of leadership. Junior has shown us he is not only heir by birth, but by courage. He will lead his father's households one day. The praise filled Adaku's ears like burning coals. She forced a smile as women congratulated her. Your co-wife's son is strong, they said. May he live long. But inside, her chest boiled. The boy I wanted gone has now become a hero. Even Ugonna looked at him with admiration. No, this must not be. If the river failed me today, then I must find another way. That night, when the compound was quiet, Ezinne sat outside with Ezenaya's mother, Weke. The moonlight bathed them in silver. Mama, Ezinne whispered, I fear for Junior. Adaku's heart is not pure. I see it in her eyes. Weke sighed heavily. My daughter, when a woman's heart is dark, it can destroy even her own joy. But remember, whatever a person sowed, he will surely reap. Ezinne nodded, but she hugged her sleeping son even tighter that night, her heart refusing to rest. Adako, meanwhile, lay awake, staring at the roof. The patch of black powder was still hidden under her wrapper. Her plan had failed, but her mind was already racing towards something darker, something more desperate. And in the silence of the night, a vulture landed on the compound fence, croaking as though warning that death was watching. Adako's heart was no longer at peace. Everywhere she turned, Junior's name echoed like a drumbeat she could not silence. In the market square, women praised him. Did you hear? The boy saved his brother from drowning. Truly, he carries the spirit of his father. At the evening moonlight gatherings, men nodded proudly. Ezenaya's first son is not just heir by tradition, but by bravery. Even Ugonna, her own son, had begun to follow Junior everywhere like a shadow. My brother is strong, he said proudly. One day I will be like him. Each word was like a spear to Adaku's chest. How dare the world sing his name while my son's voice is drowned? No, Junior must not live to inherit. If fate refuses to favor Ugonna, then I will bend fate with my own hands. Her next attempt came during the yam harvest season. Ezenaya had returned with a basket of fresh tubers, and the women took turns slicing yam for cooking. Adako quietly set aside a piece and laced it with powder poison the Dibia had given him. When the yam was cooked, she placed the poison slice in Junior's wooden plate. But as fate would have it, Ezenaya himself reached for Junior's plate before the boy could eat. Mbano, let me taste from my son's plate. He laughed, scooping the piece of yam. Adako's heart leaped into her throat. She quickly rushed another plate towards him. Husband, eat this one instead. That plate is for children. But Ezenaya frowned. What is the difference? Yam is yam. But before he could put it in his mouth, a dog that had been lurking under the table sprang up, snatched the piece and swallowed it. Moments later, the dog staggered and fell down, foam spilling from his mouth. The gas spread across the compound. Ezinne clutched Junior to her chest. This is not ordinary yam. Someone seeks to kill my son. The elders were called, but Adako swore with tears in her eyes. By the gods of my father's land, I know nothing about this. Suspicion taken like Hamatan frog, but without proof, no one spoke further. Still, Ezenaya's heart grew uneasy. A few weeks later, Adako tried again. She dug a shallow pit near the path where the children usually played and covered it with dry palm fronds. The plan was simple. Junior would fall in and she could blame it on accidents, but the gods were watching. It was her own daughter, little Chiso, who ran ahead and almost stepped into the pit. Her cries brought everyone rushing. When they uncovered the trap, Ezenaya stared long and hard at Adaku. "Woman," he said slowly, "a wife should be a pillar, not a hammer that breaks the house. Why do calamities follow you wherever you go?" Adaku shook her head violently. "My husband, I know nothing. Maybe evil spirits roam this compound." But even the children began to fear her shadow. Desperation now consumed Adaku like fire eating dry grass. She returned once more to the Dibia. "The boy is untouchable," she cried. "Every plan fails." The Dibia narrowed his eyes. "Perhaps the gods protect him, but if you still wish it, plant this charm under his mother's hut. By dawn, the boy's spirit will no longer walk this earth." He handed her a bundle wrapped in red cloths, reeking of blood and herbs. That night, the sky was heavy with dark clouds. The moon hid, and the air smelled of rain. When all had gone to sleep, Adaku crept out, clutching the charm. Her heart pounded as she tiptoed towards Ezinne's hut. She knelt, dug quickly in the sand, and placed the charm into the earth. But just as she began to cover it, the heavens roared. The strike of lightning split the great Iroko tree in the compound. Thunder boomed so loud that the entire household leaped awake. Villagers nearby rushed with lanterns, and there, frozen like a thief caught by the gods themselves, was Adako, clutching the red charm in her trembling hands, her face lit by the flames of the burning Iroko. Ezinne screamed, grabbing Junior to her chest. "Ezenaya, look, she was burying evil under my hut." Ezenaya's eyes widened with pain. He staggered forward, his chest heaving. "Adako, is this true? The woman I loved against my parents' warning, the one I defied them for. Is this what you repay me with?" Adak fell to her knees, weeping. "My husband, forgive me. I only wanted my son to rise. The elders say the first son inherits everything. Must Ugonna live as a servant to another?" The elders of Anioma, who had gathered at the commotion, shook their heads gravely. "One who digs a pit for another will surely fall into it," said Elder Okafor. "Adaku, you have brought shame not only upon yourself, but upon the womb that bore you." The next morning, the council of elders gathered. It was decided that Adaku must undergo cleansing rituals to remove the evil she had invited into the land. She was stripped of honor, mocked by villagers, and forbidden from touching communal food or drink until the rites were completed. Ezenaya, though his heart still carried love, turned his face away. "Adaku, I gave you my heart when everyone warned me. I gave you my name, my hands, my trust. But love cannot live where betrayal lives. From today, you are wife in name only." Adaku wept bitterly, her beauty dimmed by disgrace. Even Ugonna, her own son, shrank from her, too young to understand but old enough to feel shame. The morning after the thunderstorm, Anioma village buzzed with whispers. Women at the stream shook their heads as they pounded land against smooth stones. "Did you hear? The gods exposed Adaku with his own thunder. Beauty without character is a curse." Men in the palm wine tappers' house muttered as they drank. Ezenaya was warned, but he closed his ears to his parents. Now see, the shame is his to carry. Children, too, learned a new song at moonlight play. "Adaku, fine face but black heart. Thunder showed your hidden parts." The song echoed across the village, stabbing her heart every time she heard it. Ezenaya was no longer the man of laughter he once was. His farm still flourished, but inside he carried a wound deeper than the cutlass could dig. One evening, as he sharpened his hoe, his friend Obi came to see him. "Ezenaya, why do you look like the sky before rain? Your yam barns are full, your songs are strong, yet your face is clouded." Ezenaya sighed. "My friend, a man may conquer weeds in the farm, but what weed can he use to cut away the betrayal of a wife? Adaku was the fire I thought would warm my house, but she turned to smoke that chokes the eyes." Obi placed a hand on his shoulder. "You still have Ezinne. You still have Junior and Ugonna. Do not let one bad tree make you forget the forest that still stands." Ezenaya nodded, but his eyes lingered on the distance, heavy with unspoken grief. Adaku, once the jewel of the compound, now moved like a shadow. Her co-wives no longer trusted her. The villagers mocked her openly. Even at the market, women avoided her store. One day, as she tried to sell palm oil, a customer sneered. Who would buy from the hand that almost fed poison to her own household? Take your oil back, evil woman. Adaku lowered her head, shame burning hotter than the sun. At night, she sat alone, watching Ugonna sleep beside his siblings. Tears filled her eyes. My son, forgive me. I wanted to lift you high, but I have only dragged us into the mud. Her beauty, once her pride, faded with sorrow. The beads she once wore with pride lay forgotten in the corner of her house. Years passed. Junior grew into a strong, thoughtful young man, loved by all. He tilled the land like his father and spoke with wisdom beyond his age. Ugonna, though born of Adaku, carried no trace of her malice. He followed Junior like a shadow, calling him my brother, my teacher. One day, during wrestling at the village square, Ugonna was nearly defeated by a strong boy. Junior jumped in, raising Ugonna's hand and declaring, "He is my brother. Who fights him fights me." The crowd cheered. That day, the bond between the two boys became unbreakable. Even Ezenaya, watching from the crowd, felt hope stir again in his chest. Seeing the unity of his sons broke Adaku even more. She approached Ezenaya one night as the moonlight bathed the compound in silver. "My husband," she said, kneeling, "forgive me. I was blind with envy, but I have seen the truth. Junior and Ugonna are brothers, not enemies. My foolishness almost destroyed them. And for that, I beg for mercy." Ezenaya looked at her for a long time. His face was carved with both anger and pity. "Adaku," he said slowly, "forgiveness is like yam. It must be divided carefully. I forgive you as the father of my children. But trust is a yam we may never taste again." Adaku bowed her head, tears falling on the earth. It was not the forgiveness she wanted, but it was more than she deserved. Years later, when Ezenaya became an elder, his two sons stood beside him as pillars of the family. Junior became known as Ezenaya II, wise and brave. Ugonna became his closest ally, proving that brotherhood runs deeper than envy. The village often told their stories to young maidens and men. Do not let beauty deceive you. A fine face may hide a rotten heart. A child protected by truth cannot be destroyed by evil. He who goes against the warning of the elders will drink his cup of sorrow. And above all, they say, greed makes one blind, but love among brothers opens the eyes of a whole village. Adaku lived out her days in regret, while Ezenaya's name and his husband became the pride of the land. And to this day, when the thunder rumbles in Anioma, the elders smile and says, "The gods are watching. May no heart in this village ever be like Adaku's again." And so, dear friends, remember, beauty may catch the eyes, but character wins the heart. Envy can scatter a home, but love and unity will always bring it back together. In the end, it is not the face people will remember, but the goodness you leave behind. So choose wisely, live rightly, and let your story be one that makes others smile.